Hello and welcome to yesterday's airlines. It is a beautiful day for looking at the NG November release rankings. If you excuse the pun, because if you can believe it, this set is staggeringly Chinese from NG models. In fact, it will be difficult to get more reg focused than they do in this. Now, why is that? I suspect that Trump's latest threats of extra tariffs from November 1st on China, which just today look like they aren't going to happen again, scared NG. I know they scared quite a few other people because they've spoken to me about it, and it wouldn't surprise me if that is the reason there's not a single N-Reg in this release set. So it's a better time than ever to start checking out Chinese airliners, and they are often incredibly colourful and attractive, so it's not such a crazy idea. But having said that, I know that a huge chunk of the listeners on these vids are from North America, so apologies to all of the Americans listening that there aren't any NREG releases this month. But as I say, I'm pretty sure that is down to the tariff threat, which now appears to have receded again. So it's a relatively small set from NG this month, and I assume what they did was just take out all of those all of the NREG basically. But once again, what is also missing is other parts of the world. You know, the world that isn't China and the United States. But there are only two models from those other geographic regions. Regardless of all of that, we're going to take some time to look through these release ranking videos, because I do collect B-Reg airliners and I really do quite enjoy Chinese airlines and their liveries, and there are some really nice models in this set regardless of the country they're coming from. So stay tuned for us to check out those release ranking vids as always, and subscribe to the channel here at Yesterday's Airlines on YouTube, because we're swiftly approaching the 3,000 subscriber mark, which I'm reasonably pleased with considering I've only just started posting more regularly the videos. So thanks to everyone who does subscribe. Make sure you do. The channel's growing nicely and there's loads of good stuff coming up. Also, don't forget to check out the sponsor of the video, which is Northeast Diecast. Northeast Diecast does have a lot of N-Regs in stock for those American customers. Up there in Boston, Northeast Diecast has a great selection of 200 and 400 scale second-hand, largely models, and they've got some really awesome stuff. So check out Northeast Diecast, and when you do, don't forget to use the code Yesterday's Airlines 15 for 15% off your order, because it makes a big difference. That's Yesterday's Airlines 15 for 15% off your order and Northeast Diecast. But let's get on and check out this B-Reg heavy NG November set. We're going to start with a really rare aircraft type, and that is the A319neo. Airbus has sold less than 60 of the little A319neos, which is obviously a massive change from the very well-selling A319ceo. And the majority of these neos have gone to China because they're really good in high altitude environments that you can find in typically the west of China. So their type has been ordered by Air China, China Southern Tibet, West Air, airlines that are flying into those high altitude airports. And this month's A319neos are a pair for, these are effectively the flag carrier, Air China, B32M1 and B32 Lima Delta are the two aircraft. And they are, I believe, the first two for Air China of 10 or so that they've got on order. These have also been announced by Gemini Star, the brand which has been using a variety of Panda molds mainly. They've also used some Jet ones recently too. They announced those in October, so now we've got a pair from NG as well. Effectively, the two should be largely indistinguishable because the Panda A319neo, which is really nice, looks almost exactly the same as the NG A319neo. Largely because both of them look exactly like an A319neo. Yeah, these ones are obviously much easier to get outside of China than those Gemini Stars, and I will be getting one of these. In fact, I already reserved my copy using my NG points in the CRP. Regardless of that, I'm going to put one of these up into high flight and the other into workhorse. like a lot of the releases in this set, they're not super exciting, but they're still pretty solid. And if you're an Air China collector, as I am, then you'll want to get one of these Neos. Next up, we've got a pair of A321NEOs, and these are the first A321NEOs for Hainan Airlines, which has historically been a big Boeing customer, but is another one of these airlines which is having to break that mold for A321NEOs like Germain Airlines has. The two regs here are B32 Mike Tango and B32 Lima Yankee. I believe Lima Yankee is the first Hainan A321neo, and again it has also been announced by Gemini Star. They announced it in August, so there is a competing release which again will look very similar and only slightly distinguishable because they're both really great molds. Once again, happy to put one of these up in the high flyer and one into workhorse. I'll almost certainly pick up one of these for my Hainan fleet myself. Now, the rest of the A321s this month are the small foreign contingent, the non-Chinese. One of these is F-Reg, F Whiskey Whiskey Bravo Zulu, but actually it is in the colours of Riyadh Air, the Saudi airline, which has only just begun operations and I think only has 1 or 2 aircraft at the moment, and none of them are A321neos, but they've got a huge batch of 60 or so on order, and this aircraft is one of the prototypes for the Neo, which has been painted up into Riyadh Air colours. This is the less exciting version of the Riyadh Air scheme. It's not, yeah, it's fine, but it's not particularly attractive, and it's not obviously a Riyadh Air aircraft. So that, for me anyway, would detract from my interest in getting it. If I was collecting Middle Eastern aircraft, I'd rather wait until you got a delivered aircraft with the right reg than the prototype repainted into it. This aircraft has also been announced by, I believe it was JC Wings back in July, but obviously their one's going to be out for who knows when, a long time in the future. So yeah, it's fine, but it's not particularly exciting me. I'm just going to put this one, I think, down into workhorse for all the reasons I've talked about just then. Now, the next model is truly European, and this one is a Wizz Air Malta Neo. It's registered 9H Whiskey November Mike, and it's wearing a special scheme because NG just loves these special schemes. They have released a standard colours Wizz Air Malta Neo. They released that December last year. This one is got a Fly the Greenest scheme on it, which is no doubt some form of greenwashing by Wizz Air about their environmental credentials. The scheme looks perfectly okay. I'm not a big fan of the Wizz Air scheme in general, to be honest, but this looks fine. But yeah, I don't know, it doesn't excite me, and if you're a European collector, you might get it, but you'd probably prefer a whole range of other European material ahead of it. Happy to put this one up into high flyer again, though. I think it's fine, it's colourful enough, nothing really wrong with it. But that's enough talking about foreign rubbish. Let's get back to that wonderful Chinese material. So next up, we've got a trio of Sichuan Airlines A350-900s, because nobody ever makes Sichuan A350-900s, do they? However, sarcasm mode off, these three all wear the standard colours, and that actually is more unusual among Sichuan A350s because the majority of them have got a variant of the Panda route on them. However, there have been at least 3 which have been painted up in standard Sichuan colours at one time or another. So we've got B304 Victor and B304 Uniform, and both of these aircraft wore the standard scheme for a while, but then got repainted into not the direct Panda route colours, but one of those sports-related schemes, the Universiade, Chengdu Universiade schemes, and I think they're both still wearing those special schemes. And the third aircraft here is B32 Mike Victor, and this is one of those Sichuan A350s which got painted up but then wasn't taken up by Sichuan and has been flogged off to Ethiopian Airlines. So this one never entered service, but you could question why NG are therefore making the model, but clearly they like to spread their production across multiple registrations. Like I said, it makes it cheaper, and someone out there might collect all 3 of these Sichuan A350s. Who knows? It isn't going to be me. Now, there have been releases of Sichuan A350s in the standard scheme before. That's hardly a big surprise. JC Wings has made them. Aviation 400 has made them. In fact, I own one of the Aviation 400 versions. It's one of their earlier A350s, way before they had the detachable gear. I got B304 uniform, but it is a really nice model. It's got the older style landing gear, which I actually really quite like. So I'm unlikely to be replacing mine with these. Having said that, they're still solid Chinese releases, though you don't need three of them. So I'm going to put one of them up again up into high fly, and I'll put the other two down into a workhorse. The other A350s this month are Series 1000s, and these ones I guess technically aren't Chinese because they're from Taiwan. I know that sort of thing upsets people, so I'm not going to go too close to that. They obviously are B-Reg still. It's that carbon fibre 1000 Starlux A350 B58551. Now this has been announced by almost everyone, but I don't know which ones have been released. I think actually that none of them have been released yet. Could be wrong, but Aviation 400, JC Wings and Phoenix have all announced this model back around August time, and so it's taken NG a little bit longer to get it out, though I think they may have put it as a future release a while back, so it's hardly a big surprise. This one's coming in an Ultimate Collection version and a standard. For those who haven't been getting Ultimate Collection recently, they are coming with those nice new NG stands that clip over the wings and don't slot in underneath the body. Not a huge amount to say. Again, it's probably going to be the nicest of the announced versions due to the mould. But yeah, I'll put it in high flyer, and again, I'll stick one out in the workhorse as well. And that's kind of a lot of that happened this month. We've got model versions. One of them's pretty good. The other one, yeah, it's the same as the previous one. Okay, now I've skipped across the A330s for no apparent reason. So we're going to go back to A330s here, and we've got some more Air China. So we've got a pair of Star Alliance A330-300s. It's only been recently that Air China's been painting up their A330s into the Star Alliance scheme. So we've got B5912 and we've got B6101, which are in those Star Alliance livery, which actually doesn't look as good as the standard livery. I got to say, it's not thrilling me too much. What does this make of these releases? Again, they've been announced by others. These are not the only ones that have been made or announced. So Phoenix has released 5912. It was a July announcement, and therefore it's only just come out, I think, onto the market. But we've got a picture of their model, and it looks perfectly good, as most Phoenix A330s do. They were also announced, both of them, by Undefined Collectibles using the Aero Classics mold, but there's been a big mess there, and I know that Undefined Collectibles are super unhappy with the quality of what that AZ factory has produced for them. So I think they're trying to shift those on another market and not being sold through direct retailers, so you can largely ignore those. There are some pictures of them. They don't look dreadful, but it's Aero Classics quality, they're not spectacular. And Aviation 400 has also announced, but their mold is nowhere near as good. So these ones, again, they will be the best of the bunch. If you're out for an Air China A330-300, I'd be looking at one of these. And again, I ordered one through the CRP reservation process, so I'll be getting one of them myself. But once again, I'm going to put one of them up into high fly and one into workhorse. They're not so exciting, even for Chinese releases for me, to make them supersonic, and none of these really are. They're all perfectly good, middle-of-the-road Chinese releases, solid centre-ground stuff, but they're not particularly exciting. We're not seeing new airline livery combinations that no one else ever made before. Most of these have been made already by others. And the other A330-300 this month is exactly the same. It's China Eastern, B5976. It's wearing the Toy Story scheme. Now, I have to admit that even though I don't like cartoon-related themes that much on airliners, I really like Toy Story. And I've argued with this many people, but Toy Story could arguably be the best trilogy of movies ever made. I know there are 4 of them now. But still, great movies, and yeah, good to have the characters up on an aircraft. So these are celebrating Disney Shanghai Resort, I think. It's not a new scheme, it's one that's been around for a long time, and it was a model which has been released before in 2018, both by Phoenix and by JC Wings. I've got the Phoenix version, and again, like most Phoenix A330s, as I just said, it's perfectly nice. Looking at the JC one, It looks, again, perfectly nice as well, but comes on the mould, which does have a few issues here and there, but this release still looks pretty good. So we've had two perfectly good releases of it previously. They were both 7 years ago. I think Aviation 400 have just announced a version of this as well. Their one won't be probably as nice because I'm not a big fan of their A330 mould. And now we've got these ones from NG. Again, an Ultimate Collection version and a Standard. Once again, it's good, solid Chinese releases, but they've been made before quite well by others. There's nothing really new going on here. I'm still willing to give these, again, a high flyer and put the other one into workhorse, but you could perhaps workhorse these. I don't know how you feel. These will be the best versions, and that's quite often the case. And I have been buying up new versions of NG Chinese airliners and selling some of the older Phoenix and JC and other ones that I've got, which usually aren't quite as good, even though they're quite nice. Okay, now that takes us out of all the Airbuses this month, which leaves us very little else to discuss because there's only one airline aircraft combo that's not Airbus this month in the standard non-light releases, and that is a China Postal 737-800 Boeing converted freighter. And there are three of them. Once again, we've got B5160, B5306, and B222 Tango. I did look up the histories of each of these frames. Each one was newest and such, but fundamentally there's nothing drastically different. The scheme's exactly the same on all three of them. Although I do note that 222 Tango doesn't have any winglets fitted to it. And it isn't the first time they've been released in 400 scale either, because JC Wings in 2020 and then again in 2022 made China Postal 737-800 freighters. And even though, you know, I waxed lyrical about how poor the JC Gemini 737-800 mould is, and you can see it in the pictures here. It still doesn't look shockingly awful, but I didn't get these because of that mould. So I'm quite keen to pick up one of these NG versions, but again, only one of them. You don't need three with the same livery unless you're got a massive Chinese cargo hub airport going on, who knows. So again, it's a good release, it's a solid release. It's not a great release. So I'm going to put one of these again up into high flyer and put the other two down into workhorse. And that just leaves us with two models that we haven't talked about in the vid. And these are both NG Lite versions of models they've produced previously. We've got the Xiamen Air Jurassic World 737-5487, and we've got the Harbin Will Games China Eastern A330-200 B5937. So those are both effectively going to be the same as the previous releases, just without the aerials and simplified printing. I'm just going to put those down into gas guzzles. I understand why they're being made and they're hitting a different price bracket, but they don't interest me. So that sums up this month's set from NG models. I imagine that a large number of people are either very angry about the lack of aircraft that interest them if they're not Chinese collectors, or happy that their wallet is getting some respite from previous overspending. For me, this is still a good month because I collect B-Reg aircraft, so there's still 4 or 5 models in here that I am interested in acquiring, and I've already, like I say, got a couple through the CRP reservation program. But there are several others also that I'm quite keen to pick up, and a couple that I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I should replace my existing version, and maybe I won't. I'm quite tempted by the Toy Story, less so by the Citroën A350s. But this set is quite staggering in the sense that there's just so much B and so little everything else. I do think the lack of N is due to that tariff threat, which does seem to maybe have gone away now, but the lack of everything else is concerning once again. Interestingly, when you look at future announcements from NG, there are lots of more interesting models being, announced as either future announcements or models that have been approved on the wish list. So these surely will be coming out, and there's a lot more European, there's a lot more classic, there's a lot more interesting stuff being made at that point in the future. So I hope to be talking about those in 2026, and I guess we'll have to see. But for now, if you're not into B-Reg, then NG models isn't really going to be doing much for you, and that's just kind of the way it is. Okay guys, well thank you very much for watching this video. We will be getting some more content out on the channel here probably next week, but you never know, it might be something before then. I'll have to see. But stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out Northeast Diecast. Link is in the description as always. And I will see you in the next vid at Yesterday's Airlines. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.